that the dinners? Okay, as you are settling in, I would like to introduce the councilman from this district, Ms. Cynthia Newville, and she doesn't need any introduction because you have been working with her for the past 8 years, and she is a relentless worker to kind of make things happen. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Wow. I was at a meeting earlier today, and one of the things that folks hear me say is that it's a great day in the district. And it's a great day in the district because we are coming to fruition in many ways on a vision that you have for what our community will be. You've been working, all the various partners, residents, since 2010, right? Coming to meetings, many of you over the years, and we're finally at that place where we're really truly ready to move forward. You have a group of tireless, fearless residents who've been working. Raise your hands. Okay? This is our Creighton Court Resident Leadership Transformation Team. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, let's acknowledge them. Thank you. To make sure that everybody gets information about what's going on, right? And not just get the information, but know where they have an opportunity to have their voices heard. And so I want to say thank you for that. I want to thank all of the other residents of Creighton and the community in general who have come out, many of you, and continue to make sure that your voices are heard, right? And that your input is incorporated. I want to say thank you. I can't tell you how excited I am about things to happen in our district. So, transformation of Creighton with one-for-one replacement. Our new grocery store that will come soon. You know that, right? Yeah. Part of the overall vision that you had was about not just a grocery store, a full-service grocery store. Okay, so that we can get our pharmacy there, we can do our banking there, we can get fresh produce there, we can probably get some health-related items addressed there. And we can also have opportunity for jobs there. Right? That's what we heard. And that's what we've asked for. And so I don't have a date specific, but I know it's coming soon, and I'm looking towards. Okay. Thank you. And so I thank you for staying the course because I heard you. I heard you. Housing Authority partners heard you. Our other community partners heard you when you said, this is what we want. I don't want bottom up, bottom down. I want full service. And so people came to talk to us about being here, and I said, no, that's not what we heard. And so I'm excited for us. And similarly, with the housing, you said you wanted mixed income, some mixed usages. We want to make sure we have green space, right? Recreational space, can accommodate our seniors, can accommodate our families. And so that's what's coming aboard. That's what's coming on. And so I just simply want to thank you for all the work you've done thus far. And I'm going to thank you in advance for the additional work because, while I'm excited and so are you, we know it's going to take a lot more energy, a lot more effort, elbow grease, but this is some of the most worthy work we'll ever have an opportunity to participate in this community on behalf of the greater community. And so I'm really pleased with City Council that we've been able to, and we will be decisioning about the budget, been able to get funding in the budget to help leverage the choice grant, so $10 million. And it's a challenge because these are tough times. But we heard you and the importance of this project. And what I want to say, no matter what, we're going forward. Failure's not an option. I've heard that, right? We will have choices. It's just not an option. And so I'm looking forward to the work ahead. I'm looking forward to working with each of you, right? We're all in, right? You sounded a little weak to me. We're all in? Yeah. Thank you. I'm looking forward to our work together because together we can ensure that this community is the kind of community that we all say we want, with the kind of amenities we all say we want, with the kind of job opportunities we all say we want, right? And that our community needs. And now's the time. We're the one, right? And so I am just honored to be a part of the team. And I thank you, and I look forward to the work ahead. And I really do. I mean, place matters, but what we know is that people matter in those places. And you're here to ensure that the people are represented, right, Shamir? Some of the other folks, right? Shamir? That the people are also represented in the place and as a part of the plan. And so again, I've just been so excited since the weekend and the work that we did around raising money for musical gifts for our kids, and then I get to come here to talk about this incredible work and all of the component parts, TK and all of the resident leaders, and so I'm just excited for us. But while I'm excited, I know that, as my mom would say, she would say, daughter, it's plenty to say grace over, right? But this is some of the most worthy work you'll ever have an opportunity to be a part of. And that's what I share with you, and I thank you.
All right, so we're going to get started very, very, very shortly. My name is Sandy Moore. For those of you who don't know that already, many of you do, I lead Urban Strategies, which is a comprehensive community development company. We're headquartered in St. Louis, although I don't think that means very much because I spend most of my time on the road. And we are a big partner in Choice Neighborhood Grant applications and Choice Neighborhood Grant projects around the country. And many of you have heard us say before that there have been 17 of those grants awarded, and our company leads on 7 implementation grants and 1 planning grant. So we know a little bit about this, and we've been brought in to help you guys secure this grant by writing a winning plan, but also by putting together a strong leadership team so that a winning plan actually wins for the community, because the plan is only as good as its implementation, and its implementation has to be led and driven by local stakeholders from top to bottom. And so that's what we've been working on. The first part of our work involved helping to support the design and the development of the Richmond Resident Leadership Transition Team that you've heard so much about tonight. But honestly, a lot of you wouldn't be sitting in this room if it weren't for the Richmond Resident Leadership Transformation Team, because what they do every day is get up and go out and think about making certain that this community knows what's going on. They have been invaluable to this process. So the city, RRHA, and all of the leadership at both agencies was very, very, very smart to have us come in and work on a resident leadership team first. It didn't have to be that way. Some communities would have said, "Oh, well, we know how to do it." And but here, folks listen, and Ms. Old's been leading. She just walked in. Welcome, Ms. Old. Has been leading for a long, long time, and she has really been invaluable on this team now, making certain that we have a good resident leadership transition team. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk. That was the first part of the work, and it's been good. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk you through the 3 components of the plan. All right? By mandate, we have to have housing plan, a housing component, a neighborhood component, and a people component to this plan. Okay? Okay. So what we're going to do now is to walk through that. All of this week, we have been working on finalizing into a rough draft of that plan all the things that you all have been saying to us over the last year, all the things that we've been able to glean from the endless amount of information and data that we've gathered over the last year. So I'm going to talk about the people plan first, because people have to be at the center of any transformation. We can rebuild all the buildings that we want, but if we don't have a pathway for people to change the way that they are living to a way that they want to live, then it'll fail ultimately. Then we'll move into the housing and neighborhood plan. There is a nice lady, I just saw her. She came up and talked to me and said that she lives a block away from Armstrong School. Here she is. But that she doesn't live in Creighton Court, and she just didn't know whether she should be here. And I said, yes, ma'am, you certainly should, because this is about the transformation of the entire footprint, which includes Creighton Court, but it includes the entire geography that I'm going to let one of the housing and neighborhood presenters, I think Rob from UDA is going to print. They'll give you the exact footprint. But this is about the surrounding neighborhood in addition to the housing at Creighton Court. And it is, the people plan is really for both sets of people, okay? So let's start there. We'll do people, then we'll do housing and neighborhood, and then we'll throw it open for discussion and community questions. So here's an overview of the people strategy, some important components. First of all, like anything else, there needs to be, you know, I don't think I need this, I don't think I need these, I think I'm good. Like anything else, you have got to have somebody or some entity that is responsible for whatever you plan to do. Because the best laid plans go awry if somebody isn't responsible for making certain that they can implement it. So in this instance, we have the Resident Opportunities, Inc., or ROI. Now, many of you, if you've been around any time, will remember ROI as an arm of the old housing authority, and its primary job was to raise a little money, scholarship money, for public housing residents and try to get it out to people, rather than come in and start a completely new organization. Urban recommended that an existing entity like ROI be built up and beefed up, and it will serve as the leadership organization for these funds and for the implementation program of those funds. It's really going to be beefed up. It is not. It is a standalone, not-for-profit entity. Its board is being expanded right now. There'll be some resident leadership on the board. There'll be local leadership from the business, from the funding community. This ROI, as it is being developed, and by the time we get to application time, we'll be able to tell you in great detail what it looks like. But ROI is going to be the entity that's responsible to make certain that $4.5 million that is designated for people services gets implemented. The primary implementation vehicle will be the Richmond RCHD. Come on. Say it again. Richmond City Health District. Now this is going to happen all night long because we got more initials than you can just imagine. But I know what they're supposed to do. I don't have to worry about what the initials mean. I know what they're supposed to do. RCHD is the primary implementing entity because at the center of the entire people program are children and families. And that entity will have responsibility for the family transition coaches. You'll understand better the role of the family transition coaches in just a bit. And then here are our partners that will be accountable for all of the family and individual outcomes. Next slide, please. What are those outcomes? Families live in housing in the neighborhood of their choice. Critically important because there will be some on-site housing. Rob, when we talk about it, we'll tell you the exact numbers. There will be some off-site housing. We'll tell you the exact numbers. There will be some people who will choose to take vouchers and live outside of the footprint, because choice is seriously about choice. The key is for each family to make an individual choice with help from RCHD and the rest of that team, with help for the choice that is going to fit that family best. The other outcomes are evident, but we had to pick and choose because we can't do everything. So households are economically stable and self-determining. You've heard self-sufficiency language over time. We've cut the self-sufficiency language because some of our households will not get to economic self-sufficiency. They have disabilities. They're going to always need some income support. They're going to always need some housing support, but they should be and can be self-determining. They can be responsible for the income that comes into their homes. They can be responsible for making certain that they know how to live and lead well in their neighborhood, even if they have to have a little bit of help. Who among us hasn't had to have a little bit of help? All right? But you still need to be self-determining. I get a lot of help, but I decide. Amen. And that's what we want our families to become. Children, youth, and adults are physically and mentally healthy. It is the hallmark of this PEOPLE program. Physical and mental health and learning. It's the hallmark. To win this grant, we have to have a hook. The hook here is health, wellness, and learning, and you'll see it over and over and over again. Here's where you begin to see it. Children enter kindergarten ready to learn. It's one of the objectives, it's one of the strategies. I'll go through it in a little more detail in a minute. Children are proficient in core academic subjects. Youth graduate from high school, college, and career ready. Those are 3 of the 6 primary outcomes. So 4 of the 6 primary outcomes relate to our driving thing: health, wellness, and learning. Finally, the last 2, residents have better, more reliable, or more effective access and greater utilization of resident services. That ties to self-determining, right? If for our low-income residents, if you are getting an income tax return around resources, being self-determining says that you take those resources and those resident services and you use them to the highest and best use for your household. So these are important factors. Those 2, households are economically stable and self-determining, and then utilizing your resources and services to the highest and best use. And then ultimately, residents learn to lead and choose to lead to sustain their new communities. This is where we started. It's the middle of the conversation. It is the end of the conversation. It really is up to residents and stakeholders, the new families that will come in, the existing families, to decide to lead and sustain this community. Next slide, please. I'm going to run through these quickly because I had 10 minutes and I've probably already taken 12. Families live in housing in the neighborhood of their choice. What are we talking about? The structure of this work requires us to identify goals, identify results. HUD will track these results monthly. That's what ROI is going to be accountable for, is making certain that we each month over month can show results. What results are we looking for in this one? We're looking for a decrease in risk related to housing instability. We're looking for people to be able to continue to pay their rent on time. We're looking for fewer lease violations. We're looking for on track with utility payments. Yes, every household will be responsible for their own utilities. It's self-determining. And this is the kind of result we're looking for.
And it is now time to switch to your final destination, your final rotation. You may now switch.
All right, quickly. You're going to see this structure in each one of these slides. I'm going to run through them quickly, but understand there's a set of goals that we're committing to as a community. There are a set of results that we're committing to as a community. And this structure is designed to monitor those goals and those results. And I'm telling you, 7 of these, I'm on monthly phone calls with HUD, and they really are very consistent in saying what changed, what got better, why are you stuck? And this is not a forward payment. We get the money on a reimbursement basis. So we do what we say we're going to do, and we get the money monthly, or we don't because we didn't meet our goals. This is a very rigorous process. Next slide, please. And I'm going to click through the next ones pretty quickly. Households are economically stable and self-determining. What are we looking at? We're looking at the achievement of personal and family goals that they set in all of these areas: housing, financial, education, and asset building. Education and asset building. Believe it or not, low-income people can build assets. And we really need to focus on it. Next slide. Children, youth, and adults are physically and mentally healthy. What results are we looking for? We're looking for an increase in primary care utilization. We're looking for developmental assessments of all children and youth. How in the world can children succeed in school if they don't show up at school with the right assessments? Kids need to have their hearing checked. They need to have their eyes checked. They need to have their cognitive developmental abilities checked, so they start off in the right place. They don't start off behind the 8 ball, and then you discover when they're in 3rd grade that they had a hearing disability, really. And then we don't know why they've done poorly for the first couple of years. Improvement in mental health, psychological well-being, and addiction cessation. Yes, we said it. There will have to be some focus on reducing addiction. There is a problem with that is holding the community back. So we have to name it, we have to own it, and we have to work on it. Community health worker or peer-to-peer health and wellness cooperative. What we've seen here from the Richmond Resident Leadership Transition Team is that you all are a peer-driven community. Everybody here in the city can talk to folks at Creighton as much as they want to, and the folks at Creighton don't respond until other people at Creighton talk to them. That's what we found out. So we are looking for, there are some wonderful peer-to-peer health programs. You guys are going to help each other get healthy. You'll see from the design that the community is being built for healthiness, but it's going to be up to you all to decide. You want to lower blood pressure, you want to lower obesity, you want to decrease diabetes, you want to really make sure that you are healthy and living longer. So you get it. And we have the partners down on the bottom. Next slide. Now we get into so we talked about self-determination, we talked about health and wellness, and now we get into the bulk of what's really going to drive the transformation here. And these next 3 slides. What are we looking for with children entering kindergarten ready to learn? Every kid. We haven't put a percentage on it, we have to put a percentage on it, but if you ask me, it's 100% of kids have early childhood education opportunity. We want to increase the physical capacity so that we've got enough spaces. You're going to see there's a proposal for a new facility that would be dedicated to early childhood education. We want to increase the identification of developmental delays. I told you that. We want to increase parent knowledge and skill, and that really should say caregiver knowledge and skill, because every household does not have parents. But whoever's caregiving children, we want to increase your knowledge and skill so you can do a better job of that. Next slide. Children in school are proficient in core academic subjects. What results are we looking for? This is the hardest stuff, but this is what we're looking for. Children improve in performance in state standardized tests through what we're calling the Creighton pipeline. I think that Thad and his group coined that phrase, but it's perfect. What is the Creighton pipeline? It has children participating in quality OST, that's out of school time programming. That's before school in the morning, that's after school in the evening, that's winter break, that's summer break, that's out of school time needs to be put to productive learning activities. Children and youth get focused on math and reading. There's going to be a part of this time where we just have got to hunker down. The state stats for the kids, the schools in our footprint are abysmal. They're not bad. They're abysmal. And we just have to put time on it. No, and everybody in this room can do something about that. Caregivers become part of the education improvement team. Lots of good ideas are coming up. Every baby should get a book. Every household should get a bookcase. Every household should have somebody committed to make certain that baby's book gets read. This is what makes the difference from a kid who's able to read by the 1st grade and one who isn't. How many words they have when they get 3 years old. As much as we like to talk, they should have so many words, still they don't even know it. Right, exactly. So, teachers are supported in providing more instruction time. Yes, that we said it, that's what we mean. We have to incentivize teachers to give our kids more time, because the kids need more time. Next slide. Youth graduate from high school, college and career ready. Now, I really, these words and then the results quickly. Ready all youth, including those with disabilities and those outside of traditional school. Because that's what has to happen. We do all seem to want to focus on getting kids graduated from high school, but what about the 16-year-old that's already dropped out? What about the disabled kid? If we're going to really change this, it's got to be a focus on all kids, and these are the results. Reduced dropout, increased focused academic support, increased behavioral support in the school building so that we understand why kids are troubled, increased cutting-edge occupational education programs. For those kids who aren't going to go to college, they need to be career ready. The way to get career ready is they have to have a good occupational program, something that really appeals to them. Next slide. Residents lead to sustain. They are stakeholders for the future. What are we looking for? The current residents of the Creighton community expand their outreach and engagement. Every time we have one of these meetings, we need 3 times as many people as we've got now. That's because each one of you brings one when you come back to the next meeting. Future residents are informed by stakeholders, so they don't walk in the community and don't know how we behave here. We set a new standard, we get new buildings, we get new goals, then we have to share that with other new stakeholders. We are looking to have some resources for advanced community leadership training, as advanced as we could get. And then finally, it is accepted that community governance is recognized. No, we don't call the housing authority. First, we as a community figure out what needs to get done. And then we follow the proper channels, because there won't be any housing authority. I mean, there will be a housing authority, but they won't be running this community. It's going to be a newly developed, privately managed community. Next slide. Takes a lot of money. 4.4 million is what we'll have about from the feds for this part of the work. In order to win this application, we're going to need to leverage or raise another 13.5 million. Well, we're doing pretty good. We're probably just about halfway there. Folks are serious. We're just about halfway there in commitments from agencies who have said, here's what we're good for, here's what we're good for, here's what we're good for. Now, we got a ways to go and we got a month to get there, but I'm confident that we will get there. So that's the people program. One thing we cannot possibly do, guys, and this is, and I'm going to close and hand off to Rob, is we can't do all of this work, raise this money, get this grant, raise this money, and then not achieve what we set out to do. That cannot happen. It's like you get a once-in-a-lifetime chance to grab a ring and climb, and that's what we've got to do, and it's going to require everyone. It will be really hard work, but it'll be great fun. Thanks, guys, and we'll keep at it.
Thanks, Sandy. We're going to talk now about the sort of other end of the spectrum here, from people really defining needs and helping us understand what's of critical importance here, to how do we make that happen? How do we give a form to this new investment in the community, not only within Creighton and around Creighton, but within the East End? So at one scale, Sandy mentioned that there were 3 parts of this. There is the strategy for reinvesting in the neighborhood as a whole, and we've defined boundaries here where investments should be targeted and to occur. And then there's the housing strategy, which we'll talk about as well, which is the sort of physical reinvestment and transformation in and around Creighton. It's no surprise then, after hearing Sandy's presentation, that on the investment in the neighborhood, it is going to focus on those elements that are social, what we call social determinants of health. What is it? What are those factors that contribute to wellness in the sense of a healthy community and a healthy lifestyle, healthy living? It's really broad, and it encompasses many different dimensions of the way we operate in our daily lives. But there are sort of 3 areas that rose to the top of critical importance. And what's interesting is that you have lots of institutions and folks who are already dealing with these issues all over the East End
The problem a bit is that it's like 1,000 points of light. You know, it's happening all over the place, and very little of it is coordinated. So we're spending money, we're spending resources with people, we're operating in little facilities, yet there's not a lot of conversation about how we could collaborate, come together, and provide really transformative facilities and services for folks. So with the investments that we've tracked that have already occurred or that will be occurring in the next 3 to 5 years, we came up with over $132 million worth of investment that is already coming into this neighborhood from the private and the public sectors, which is astonishing. Now that includes things like the MLK school, right? So there are big investments that have been going on here, and building on those going forward, we need to identify for the same leverage, the $4.5 million that will come into this grant as part of the neighborhood reinvestment, 3 key areas where we're going to spend money on facilities. You've heard about the people and services side of it. Well, those will begin to revolve around developing facilities for child development. We heard it from our leadership team about the acute need for development, for early childhood education, for young children. How do we do that? It's important for all aspects of life here. Expanding neighborhood health facilities, that's something that's happening. How do services reach the community, the broad community? That is a changing landscape every day with new health care programs that are here. The facilities that deliver those are changing, and we want to begin to look at those facilities as part of a larger wellness program and child development program. The other third part of that is the physical place we live has to be transformed as well. So we have taken an attitude of focusing on the 9 Mile Road gateway into the city, into this neighborhood, as a place to begin to spend our resources to transform the way that feels. If you're walking along the side of the road there, you know what it feels like today. If you're coming into the community, it says to Richmond and anyone who's visiting us what this neighborhood is all about. So it's like a very important front door, and it's also a place where people come together. It is the backbone, we think, of this neighborhood and this area of the city. So health, wellness, access to jobs, those are the focus areas within the people plan as well. And as we begin to invest, thinking about how we change neighborhood forms and invest in just the sort of sticks and bricks that are here, how do we again reinforce these messages? Next. So there's a little strategy diagram here. What you see is Creighton, where we are up here at the top, and you can see the 9 Mile Road corridor. This is 25th Street. That takes you down to the river, or Venable and Fairmont that take you to the edge of the city. So this notion of where we're going to focus these resources are in these coded areas. So in the sort of dark orange represents the Armstrong School redevelopment. That initiative is sort of the first phase of transformation that will happen here, which is a mix of home ownership, rental townhouses, seniors housing, and family housing that will begin. And it's sort of a little microcosm, if you will, actually a fairly big one, of what we're proposing to happen within Creighton. So with those two major reinvestments that are happening at that northern end of the neighborhood's just beside it, all around us here. A lot of folks are aging in place. Houses need rehab, many of them. There are many missing teeth here, vacant lots all around us. So it's not enough just to focus on Creighton. We've asked the housing providers, the folks who are working here now, and including the Housing Authority, which has declared these conservation zones, so that we can begin to direct money and resources into those areas to help seniors stay in their houses, fix them up, reduce their heating bills and cooling bills with energy improvements and just physical improvements, and begin to focus new housing opportunities in those neighborhoods. Other parts of Church Hill, that over the past 25 years or so of investment, that's starting to happen and fill up, and neighborhoods are getting healthier. We need to bring that kind of investment and attitude into the north so that families who are here can afford to stay here for the long run and can be in places that are great places to live. So that gives us a kind of really large zone around the 9 Mile Road corridor. And along that corridor, we see that as the place where services and amenities should happen for the neighborhood. It was once here, it's sort of fallen in disarray, and how do we begin to build it back? So part of that is focusing on opportunities along 9 Mile Road to begin to reinvest immediately as part of this initiative. So new housing, new shops, new services, things like medical services, things like grocery stores, things that really have a profound effect on people's lives. So that idea of a couple of nodes along the corridor from Creighton, where we are, to 25th Street, the idea for the hospital, as we talk to them, of creating a medical village. And that is also services that go into the neighborhood as well. So they'll be expanding in place to create much more of a presence here. The Neighborhood Service Center we talked about at the intersection of 25th Street and 9 Mile Road will be a mixed-use node, and that's where the targeted services like the grocer and other shops would come in as part of that. There are infill sites that we'll be doing as part of this, again extending that node so it stretches to what we think should be a health and wellness node or campus right at the entrance to Creighton, and then the redevelopment and redesign of the neighborhood itself. So there are these big investments that help change the context for starting to work on the specific neighborhood. If we look at the approach to taking Creighton from where it is now, next, to where we think it is a much more connected place, if you live here, it's almost an island unto itself. We really have one through road into the neighborhood, which everybody uses to park on and to get to their houses now, and only a couple of small roads that end up within the neighborhood but don't connect. You have Bunch, you have Walcott Place. That's the only access. So there's really one way in, one way out. So if you look at the pattern around us, this is an idea about extending the fabric of the neighborhood so that we're all one. It does not create a division or barrier or segregation. It's about being inclusive. And actually, all the neighborhoods around you need to be connected to you, for their health. So what you see in these little red dotted lines is the idea of progressively coming back in block by block and extending the East End blocks so that you have houses facing streets, parking behind you that's for people who are living in that block, front yards, backyards, neighborhood parks, community parks, and a range of different housing types. So the first thing is getting that framework as the core, the backbone of what will become the neighborhood form. They're calling it.
Good afternoon, teachers, students, parents, community partners. We want to thank you for participating in our PBS hearing tonight. We are now bringing our activities to a close. We would ask that you please finish up the activities that you are involved in. Once again, we thank you for your continued participation, your continued support. We're grateful for our PBS partners, and we look forward to another awesome event such as this next school year. Thank you for this culminating activity. It was really an amazing experience. Have a great evening.
That's not us yet. I get a few more minutes. The second part of building great streets, neighborhood blocks, reconnecting, is what are we connecting to? So the framework for, we think, good, healthy, and really desirable neighborhoods is to bring the amenities into a fabric where nobody is more than a 3-minute walk from a great neighborhood park. So can you walk around the block? Can you get your kids to small little neighborhood parks? And is there a community park that can accommodate the kids who are living here, the families who are living here, so that they can recreate and play within their neighborhood and not find themselves scattered all over the city looking for ball fields or looking for spaces to play. So it's critically important for us to think about streets and parks as sort of fundamental to great neighborhoods. All the great neighborhoods we know about have really good quality elements like that. So we've been thinking about the way kids bike in this community. Where can they go that's safe? Where do kids play? How do we actually create different spaces for different age kids so they're not in conflict? And that's a little bit what this diagram is showing, as you see the sort of green. We're also linking to big citywide moves. There's a bikeway that's coming through Churchill, coming up 29th Street. You see it in the purple dots. And we'll continue that right into the neighborhood so it becomes a part of a bigger network within the city. Next. So these kinds of spaces make you feel really differently about the place you live. And to have these as sort of high quality amenities that people have access to is fundamental to this setting up this system and this network. So we have a robust program of thinking about recreation, how it works, as we begin to talk to partners about helping us program stuff for kids who will live here, and then more importantly, giving them places where they can recreate and conduct the programmatic elements of that. So if we look at the neighborhood now, what you see is what we just talked about, where Creighton Road comes through. You've got Bunch, and you've got Walcott up at the top, 29th Street, which is running 1 block from us near the Anna Julia Cooper School. And the buildings are just sort of organized around common spaces. So it's very difficult here, we know when we've heard from residents, backyards and front yards tend to be the same thing. It tends to be shared space everywhere, not a hierarchy of public spaces and private spaces. So we want to change that a little bit with the networks that we begin to add to the new Creighton. So what you see in this is a very different pattern. And you can see it in the model in the next room, where we set it up as a series of blocks as you come through. Again, buildings facing the streets, parking in the middle. There's a new community park and resource center in the middle where we can conduct different kinds of programming, both for the broader neighborhood and for this neighborhood. And then smaller parks that are distributed throughout so that people don't have to walk all the way across the neighborhood to enjoy those amenities. Along 9 Mile Road, we'll construct a linear park there with a wide multi-use path where you can walk and you can bike in safe distance from the edge of that street as well. So parking here becomes much more privatized behind the blocks, and the streets will be narrow. They'll have bike lanes on most of them that come through here, and they'll connect you one neighborhood to the next. So these neighborhoods are glued together by what we call sort of places in the plan. So we'll look at a couple of those that we've drawn up this week. Next. So the very first one is what would it feel like to live around a small neighborhood park? It might have a top lot in it, might have a free area for play. Again, you'll have walkways and bikeways all the way around it, so you have safe places for kids to play. So this is what it looks like in plan, but that doesn't tell you much, so we drew it. So you could be standing at one corner of the park. We're looking back on this side to the community center in the park, and then you can see the houses that face it. So these are small, more intimate park spaces, and when you start to look at the buildings here, you see a variety of types and sizes. So there's small apartment buildings, like 6 and 9 unit apartments that will have a range of bedroom types, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. Most of the 3 bedrooms are in townhouses where you have your own front yard and backyard when you have larger families. Next. So the play areas that are there now which are kind of open to everything, get consolidated into some kind of either small neighborhood park or the larger community park. Next. So in the middle, this whole block becomes a community-based park where the big kids play on the ball fields and the court sports, and the little kids are playing in the splash pads and the playground areas, community garden areas that in a way get sort of naturally separated, so you have lots of functions that can go on here. And the building itself can have meetings like this, or events, will become a resource center for many different functions there, and that can function on its own. It's got its own little parking area behind it. But it's lined with houses facing it. So there are always eyes on the street. We love nosy neighbors, but it gives you a chance that anything that goes on, everybody knows about it, rather than this kind of no man's land where you don't know really whose it is or what's going on back there. Next. So from the air, if we were flying over it, that's kind of what we imagine it to look like. Here are the small play areas, here's a splash pad, here's one of the little playground areas, community garden, the ball fields and the play spaces up to one edge, in the community building in the middle. Next. So the 9 Mile Road frontage, we're looking across from the cemetery here, we're driving along Creighton, is, it's sort of half and half. It's actually much better, I think, in the way it feels in front of Creighton than as you drive towards 25th Street. It starts to get a little choppy. But what we have done is to sort of reconceive how the street will feel and how to use the space between the edge of the sidewalk now and the fronts of the existing units. So if we are up in the air and we look at the future vision for how this little linear park will work, you can see a kind of dramatic change from today to tomorrow. So along this street, this is where a lot of traffic moves in every day, all day long, in the evening when people are commuting out. So buildings along here are going to be a little bit bigger. People who really don't have small kids, who could live anywhere in the city, will, we think, be attracted to this address with the new park space out in front of them, and be at a setback and a size that can reflect the scale and the function of the road. Now, when we're in the middle, we're on Creighton Road here, and we're looking at the existing management building and facilities, and we're sort of looking towards 9 Mile Road. This is where we talked about creating streets for people who live here. So in this one, once you are able to get parking behind your unit, you no longer have to drive across the grass and drop your groceries off at your front door. You can actually pull up to the back, walk in the back door, unload in the kitchen. So out front it becomes a much better street. So you're standing in that same spot, you're looking at the new bike lanes on Creighton Road. We took out a whole line of parking and new houses that are built back. Yep. So the new housing, which will front this street to transform that, there's the part of the new community park where that building once was. So it makes, we think, for a whole cloth that should live very differently than it does today, and really become part of an expansion of the classic Richmond neighborhood. Now I know the mayor has come in, so let me just turn this over real quickly so you're not waiting for us all evening, Mr. Mayor. Would you like to say? Yeah.
Wonderful to have the mayor from his busy schedule. He's taken some time to really come and greet and be supportive. Without his support, I don't think we would be here where we are today. So, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, TK. Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening. And thank you so much for being here tonight. It's great to see this turnout tonight. It really is encouraging, because we need you to be a part of what we're trying to do in the East End. I want to thank all of our stakeholders, TK and the Housing Authority, all of the members of our Community Wealth Building FAD, and all of the business stakeholders, the Community Foundation, all of the people who are helping to make this happen. You know, we've been really looking at ways to deal with poverty and deal with uplift. We created the Office on Community Wealth Building because for the first time in Richmond, we're serious about a systemic and comprehensive change in the way people live. None of us wants to have two Richmonds. We want to have one Richmond. We don't want to have a Richmond that's separated by a bridge or a walkway, but we want a Richmond where everybody has a chance at a good life. And so that's what this is about. And so I'm very happy that you're here to help us to get this Choice Implementation Award. It is important for us to get resources in order to be able to make the kind of changes. I heard when he said that you can drive up and drop your groceries off at the back door, you kind of got excited, right? That's a good thing. But in order for us to get there, we've got to get the resources, and if you will help us with that, it's important. I think the common denominator tonight is that we're all here because we care. We care about you, and you care about your neighborhood and where you live, right? So we're here to make sure that the tomorrow is better than the today. And we're here to say that we're going to give our best thought processes, our best open-mindedness, our best thoughts and ideas to this process so that we can get it done. We've got great consultants, the community builders. Sandy, good to see you. She's the best. She's really good, I tell you. Yeah, she almost changed my mind in my office the other day. So she can talk. So we're happy to have her leading the charge. But I'm excited about what the possibilities are here, and I hope you are as well. And I wanted to show up tonight to let you know that we're not just sending people in here, but I wanted to come myself and say how important this is to our city, to say how important it is for us to make sure that you know that this is the real deal. We're not playing. We're really meaning to get this done. So thank you so much for being out here tonight, and give us your best thoughts, your best ideas. Be honest with us because we're going to be honest with you. And thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we may want to kind of continue. Is this the last slide, or do you have some more?
We're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to
That's
do
it?
questions and answers?
Yeah.
I think this is one more.
Thad, do you have any comments or remarks to make before we take questions and answers session?
No, other than the mayor summed it up, we're not playing.
Right.
We're gonna do it. We got so many partners around the community organizing us. Those in the room.
Okay.
Before we open it up, as we go through the sort of character and quality of neighborhoods, just to talk about process a little bit. We didn't have any drawings when we showed up on Monday. So the resident leadership team worked with us for the last month to tell us what was important and what had to be addressed. So all this week, we've been doing a little bit, and then we'd sit down and talk. Then we'd do a little bit more, sit down and talk, and find out what was on people's minds. We had a great open house last night. Many people came out and helped us kind of refine our ideas, and we could explain some of the thinking behind it. So that's a process that continues. We're very early. You know, these are drawings on paper right now, and this is the easiest time to change things. So there were a lot of questions asked, and we had a lot of discussion about many different dimensions of what this meant, what people liked, what they didn't like. Did they feel that the character and the scale was right? Were we doing the right thing for folks who live here now? A lot of questions like how many people are coming back? How many people have, you know, where they won't fit on the site? So we've got some of that to talk about as we move through this. When you look at just the program, if you will, and like the number of units and the different kinds of buildings that will accommodate folks. It's different than what's there today. Everything today is relatively the same. So this is much more mixed like any of the older neighborhoods. It's got small apartment buildings that we talked about. It's got townhouses. It's got different kinds, different flavors, different styles. So this gives you a sort of overall sense of what's being accommodated. In the purple were the community facilities we talked about. The management facilities and the offices are in the ground floor of a different building. I mean, this is, this sort of different business than what happens today. The larger buildings that we looked at along 9 Mile Road, there's sort of 3 of them right there. They have 18 apartment units in them. And those are, as we talked about before, those are folks typically that don't have families that like living in those kinds of spaces and buildings. And we think that's the right kind of body language for 9 Mile Road. The rest, as you begin to feather back to where we are here, it becomes sort of smaller and smaller in scale. And we don't really take that kind of building type too deep into the site. But we had 503 units here before. This represents 612. Why 612? Well, if you walk the site today, you could land a small plane behind the management office and not hit anything. So there's a big swale where it fills up like a bathtub with water when it rains. Yeah, and so you've got half of this site practically that is not really utilized. So to make good neighborhood space, we actually need neighborhood streets that feel good. Buildings are not so far apart that you go, well, whose is that? What goes on there? And we think when you look at the model, the drawing is one thing, but when you look at the model, you can see this modeled and you can tell us if you think it feels right. Next. So there's a range, as we said, of different kinds of architecture, different kinds of unit types, different kinds of buildings, and we're trying to work our way with you through what the right character and image is. One thing we've learned as architects is that what looked good in 1976 don't look so good today. So we don't want to time stamp this either. I think that's the worst thing that we could do. We want to really be a continuation of Richmond, make it feel like Richmond. Yes, it's new, all of the way the interiors are and all of the building construction methods and air conditioning and heating systems. So we said it earlier today, it was the end of window air conditioning units. Right, so now we can build in the right way and build in a way that we think is an honest and traditional way that Richmond neighborhoods feel. Next. So part of testing this plan was modeling it and then talking in detail about the numbers. So if you look at just in a snapshot of what is proposed here, on the Armstrong site, 125 units that were in Creighton today, people will move over to Armstrong as it produces new housing and new opportunities. 45 in the early phases are in a small senior building, and then there's this collection of family housing. Folks will be moved over into Armstrong. So 125 are in Armstrong, and by doing this, we can keep 237 families, folks, who live here now on the Creighton site. So in total, just across the street, you see that you've got 362 of the 503 units that can remain close by and on site. There'll be 12 more units that we'll place in new developments along 9 Mile Road. And then in other neighborhoods, we have project-based vouchers where those projects are mixed income, mixed projects that are around the city by private developers in a mixed income fashion. So 129 folks will be able to choose different locations for their housing. So we try to mix this so it's balanced and can walk and talk like any other neighborhood in Richmond so that we don't concentrate any one income group and make sure that we're maintaining affordable housing. So between these 4 resources, we're able to accommodate everyone within this program. So that's sort of the big picture flavor of numbers of units. The bedroom mix, we are mandated to replace every bedroom type that is here now in new facilities. So we've got, for instance, 46 4-bedroom units. Nobody's building 4-bedroom units anymore. You know, it's just not being done. We will. And you've got all of the units you have now, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. We will replace all of those exactly, 1 for 1. And then the market side, you know, may have a different mix. We'll find out what that wants to be, and that will become part of the program as well.
Just
So,
really quick, we've got Daniel Tiger
All right.
in the house. He just wanted to say hi. And PBS Kids is a partner, and we love you at the Community Idea Station. We just finished PBS Kids Night at Woodville, and we wanted to end it by saying hi.
We've had every kind of visitor imaginable tonight. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob. That was really good. We're ready to throw it open. Of course, thank you to the mayor for being here. We're ready to throw it open for questions and answers. At this point, I want to make one thing really, really clear that Rob just talked about before we throw it open. Notice he said we are replacing 1-for-1 bedroom types, okay? But everyone is going to be assigned a bedroom based on your current need. All right, that has to be very clear. Because some of you are in houses that have more bedrooms than you currently need. So because you are living in a 4-bedroom house now, because you had 5 children when you first got in that unit, and now you have no children, we are not going to put you back in a 4-bedroom house. We're going to put you into a house that fits your individualized plan. And everyone needs to understand that that gets to be really a sticky wicket. Well, I had 4 bedrooms. You told me I was going to get 4 bedrooms. No, that's not so. You're going to get the number of bedrooms that fits your house, your household at that time. But we will be building enough bedrooms so that if there is a young family that does need 4 bedrooms, they will have a place. Okay? Just wanted to be clear about that so we don't get that confused. Questions? We're ready. Yes, ma'am. You were first, but I just thought I'd go here.
I'm ready.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I want to know if you have a neighborhood watch.
Do I have a neighborhood watch? I have a neighborhood watch in my community. What do you want? Then you have a neighborhood watch. Right? Yes.
I just wanted to kind of clarify the question. He divided it up about where certain people will be accepted if they will be able to go, but what happened about the 129 people that he was saying that will be able to, I guess, get a voucher or go somewhere else? Would they go to another project, or how would that go?
First of all, this is not a project, and it's not going to be a project, and there are not going to be very many projects anymore ever. But the answer to your question is those 129 people will have an array of options where they can go. New communities that are being built where the developer has said, I'm perfectly happy to take a voucher, or 20 vouchers, or 15 vouchers. Communities that are being remodeled that will take vouchers. So those 129 families will have a choice of places where they can live throughout the area.
Okay, but that includes a Section 8 voucher, or you just go on your own?
No, it's going to be a Section 8 voucher. It will be like a Section 8 voucher. It will be a public housing resident who will get a voucher to live someplace else other than on this footprint, but be protected from not paying more than 30% of their income for rent.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I got another part 2 to that question.
That's okay.
So-
You get 4 parts.
Okay. The 129 people that are not going, you said they have an option to go different places.
Right.
Right. But is that because they don't qualify to stay on the premises, or exactly how does that go?
That's a very, very good
I mean,
question.
I'm-
It's a very good
I'm
question.
curious because
Yeah.
what if I'm not chosen to be on this property?
Okay,
Would
so,
that-
so
would the-
it's a switch in your mindset, all right?
Mhm.
Okay. Choice means choice. Now, in order to qualify for the choice, you gotta be in good standing.
Okay,
So right now, understand that you need to be in good standing.
okay,
Every person, on the day that we submit this application, which the deadline is the 26th of June, right? 28th of June. And we're hoping to submit several weeks before that. But let's say we submit it on the last day, which is the 28th of June. On that day, every individual living at Creighton in good standing will have the right and the opportunity to be in one of these 503 units.
now what is good standing?
Hold on, let me finish that piece first. If you fall out of good standing
Uh-huh,
over that period of time, you can disqualify yourself from that right.
okay,
Because with every right, there is a corresponding responsibility.
all right.
So this is an exchange. You want a new house, then you gotta live well in the one you got.
That's right.
All right?
I agree.
Okay,
Agree.
now those are the rules of the road.
Okay,
So good standing will be determined by a reoccupancy committee that we are recommending to the Housing Authority include residents, all right? And those residents will come together with the Housing Authority, with the city, because the city is the applicant, and you all will come up with a set of criteria of what includes good standing. I can tell you what won't be there, a credit check. It will not require a credit check in order to be in good standing. That's not fair.
well, that's
We already
understandable.
know that people are struggling. You need time to get your credit improved. So a credit check won't be part of good standing. But I tell you what might be a part of good standing. Recent violent criminal activity.
Okay,
You all may decide that if you've been engaged in recent violent criminal activity, that's not good standing. So it's going to be a process of determining what good standing is that is reasonable and fair, but that helps to create a new community. Okay?
I appreciate that you explained that because I was concerned.
Right.
And maybe other people here might have been
Yeah.
concerned.
So there's not an absolute set of rules. It is a community led by the Housing Authority and the city, because they're the applicant, that will come up with what good standing is with you all's involvement. Now, the only bars I can tell you for sure that would prevent you from being in good standing is if you've got certain violent sexual offenses, if you have certain violent offenses against children or vulnerable people, and if you have been engaged in any kind of drug making, manufacturing, or selling. Those are things that more likely than not will prevent you from being in good standing. Even if you aren't in good standing to move into this property, if you are living in a public housing property with that background, you will have the opportunity to go to another public housing property, but not this one.
But see, I asked you that because it's letters that are being passed around.
Yes.
Which a lot of people are not fitting the criteria, and they're saying they're taking the units. And they were saying that you had to qualify. So I was just trying to speculate exactly how would that work. Are they just gonna take the unit, or either they qualify or they don't? Because a person like me, I pay my rent, I pay everything that I'm supposed to pay. I'm in good standings to my belief, or at the rent office, they know that. I didn't receive a letter. Certain handicapped people didn't receive a letter.
It's too much for us to discuss in that question, in this setting.
Okay.
Because it's individualized. Yes, there are a first group of folks who are going to Armstrong who have begun to get some of the letters that you are talking about, but we just need to talk about that on a one-on-one basis.
Okay.
So what we need you to do is to contact one of your Richmond resident leadership team, transition team members, and say, hey, you don't have to go into your affairs, but just say, hey, I need you to connect me to the Housing Authority because I've got these questions, okay?
Thank you.
Yes. Let's see. Did I get this? I'm gonna go over here, then I come over here. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Rudy Price, and I live across 99 Road on 29th Street. And everything that I've heard sounds wonderful, and the plan is very nice and beautiful. But all of the investments and things that have been talked about, like the housing, the parks, the splash pools, and everything that the people are asking for, do we have a MOU in place for everybody to know about and make sure that we get the funds for those particular items?
So sweet and gracious. You want to know, are we sure that this is going to happen? It's just another bunch of promises, right? There will be MOUs. So the way the process works is you'll get the award. Notice how I don't say if. So you'll get the award. Now we know it's an if, but we're just going to claim it. Isn't that what we say? So you'll get the award. Then HUD will have a big agreement between the city, which is the applicant, of what they are supposed to do. Okay, y'all change it, okay. Well, HUD will have a big agreement with the housing authority or the city or both of them, whoever are the lead applicant. And they'll have 5 years to get these things done. Then if, we can't get back to that slide. Megan, can we get back to that partnership slide, the first part of the people slides? Second slide, this one. Then, so first the city and housing authority are held accountable. They got the $30 million. They've promised to do all of this other investment. That agreement will be signed. They have 5 years. It will turn out to be 6 by the time they get through implementation. Get through signing of the contracts and whatnot. Then this organization here will be held accountable for all the people components with these partners. There will be MOUs between every one of these partners. Peter Paul will have an MOU that says we're working with kids on these items and these items and these items, right? What is not, so there will be a series of MOUs between all of the partners that are tied to the main contract from HUD. Now what is missing off of here is that there is also, because we don't have it ready yet, there's also going to be a governance structure that will be required to meet regularly, to check progress, and to report out to the community. It'll be, HUD will mandate that we probably have some number between 2 and 6 of public meetings to keep a year, to keep the public updated. So this is a highly visible process of accountability. Can things still fall through cracks? Yes, they can. That's why it's important for you all to come to these meetings. Okay. I was supposed to go over here. Yes, ma'am. Oh, in the back. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm saying that you told me not to leave.
I did tell you not to
Okay,
leave.
what I'm interested to know is how all of this will benefit homeowners outside of Creighton Court. That's what I'd like to know. It's great that all of these plans are being made for Creighton Court, but how will it benefit the homeowners within the area?
Okay. So I'm going to say generally, and then I'm going to do, we've got a plan round, right? We got some plan ideas. Okay, so generally, the way the money breaks down is $30 million that will come in the grant. $21 million needs to be on the replacement housing that you saw Rob identify, the replacement units on the site, right? That's $21 million. That leaves $9 million. Of that, 4.5 has to be focused on neighborhood improvements, and 4.5 has to be focused on people improvements. And I have to be clear about the people improvements because people get very confused about it. The 4.5 million of HUD's money has to be focused on the people of Creighton. The 4.5 of the neighborhood money can be focused on the community surrounding. When we get the 4.5 million for people, we have got to have partners who say that they will contribute additional money or services. That additional money or services that isn't HUD's can be spent on the people in their neighborhood. So what are the big ideas right now on the 4.5 million for the neighborhood that this lady would care about?
There are a couple of things. You saw in the one slide on the corridor, those two yellow areas that were neighborhood conservation areas that flank either side. Gets exactly the area that you're talking about on one side. And then again, adjacent to the Armstrong School. We're going to be focusing some of that money and in there and asking the housing providers who are working to focus on that same area so that there will be low interest loans for rehab assistance. There'll be new housing coming into vacant lots so that their activities are starting to channel to focus. When we talk to, there are like 4 or 5 different groups, Habitat, Southside Development, Better Housing Coalition. There are a lot of folks, Bonsacor also sponsors some housing improvements as well. There are a lot of folks working, and we're saying, while we're doing this over the next 5 years, can we all agree to begin to focus more activities in this neighborhood so we can help stabilize and improve the edge between the neighborhood and Creighton? Because for us just to do Creighton, that, like you say, it's benefiting you in many ways because it's creating a whole new context for your neighborhood. But to be actually in the neighborhood, doing new infill home ownership, doing new rehab, and helping people improve their properties. So that is a very targeted initiative for us in the housing sector in the community. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much, thank you. And the meat will get on the bones as we go down the road, but what you want to keep your eye on is that that's the target area for that 4.5 million to be used in a variety of ways. Who was next? I saw you, sir, but I think there was someone before you. Yes.
MOU, I was
Oh,
talking,
I'm sorry.
other people may not know.
That's right. That is a memoranda of understanding or a written agreement between the parties that you agree and commit to do thus and so in exchange for thus and so. So there won't be an exchange of resources from HUD to anybody else or from the Housing Authority to anybody else without a memorandum of understanding or a contract. Yes, sir. Get up there, sir. We can't hear you.
You talk about Creighton Cool.
Yes.
All right. All this development going on. Well, what happened to Fairfield? I mean, they go together. I mean, you do all this work.
Okay, I'm gonna need some help on that one. I'm gonna need some help on Fairfield. I'm gonna give this to TK. They didn't put Fairfield in my pocket.
Right. I think we got to get started somewhere, right?
Right.
So we have started with Creighton Court. Once we get started, then we will be looking at how do we really because to tell you the honest truth, there are 4 large public housing projects built back in the 50s, 70s, all the time, right? So unless we really address all of them in some fashion or the other, and that will take some time. And this development here is going to take hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So, step 1, step 2, step 3. But that's the path that my board, the Housing Authority Board, and the city has agreed to a strategic plan to transform the public housing, reduce the density of poverty in these neighborhoods, and really do the kind of things that we are planning to do. But you just have to have a little more patience.
I mean, there's a general rule, sir. I mean, everybody's trying to be straightforward with you. Fairfield's not up yet. But as a general rule, if we can be successful at a start, it generally helps whatever's gonna come next. So we're just gonna hope Fairfield is next in the hopper. And if that's a mistake, just say the woman from St. Louis said that and she didn't know what she was talking about. Somebody was over here? Oh, you don't need it, okay. You're next up.
When you transfer me, I have to go into a high rise or you have to
some apartments, how that, how they.
You'll have the unit that's appropriate for you. If it isn't appropriate for you to be, there aren't gonna be any high rises here. You know what? There you go. Shut up, Sam.
And I didn't address that, it's a good question. So in Creighton, during this redevelopment, 10% of all the units will be accessible units, right? There'll be ground floor accessibility. So there'll be units for folks that have different needs, different requirements for the housing. So there'll be, you know, and we understand that, and right now it's a difficult issue because you can only go so many places. So there'll be that level of accessibility for you. Was that the question? Yeah.
First, I would like to say I live a block outside of Creighton since 1954, in South Carolina. And Creighton is right unique, probably, when you look up the Housing Authority facilities. Its location with the high school was there. It had full access to the high school. It's a golf course about 4 or 5 blocks here to the northeast. Most of the Armstrong golf teams came from Creighton Court, from Fairfield Court. And our city had recreation parks where every playground had tennis courts, had tennis teams. Armstrong Creighton Court had tennis players that college scholarships, one of the Mankato States, and so on. And the thing about, I don't understand what you're saying about the large open spaces. That's the problem we have with Gilpin Court, and the problem we have with Fairfield Court and Hillside Court. The two real problems in this city, Gilpin Court and Hillside Court don't have recreation centers. The rest have recreation centers. In case of Creighton, it had access to the Armstrong facilities. And that use those fields. And it's fascinating because Ms. Jones said here, her youngest son was a Exeter Academy. He was a concert violinist. And the unit she came was the first unit. There were like about 10 college graduates out of that green unit alone. My valedictorians were off 9 Mile Road and that sort of thing. So people here of, like say, above 50 did not live in a housing authority complex. They lived in an apartment complex in a sense. And with us, we buried coal and wood back in the 50s and 60s. And they had their money because it was too hot with their steam. But what you are saying about jamming together, that's crazy. And we're not used to being jammed all out of New York or Philadelphia or Baltimore all on top of each other. We used to green spaces. You see the woods right there? We could be in the woods and they come in about 5-10 minutes. Now I'm asking you about you're in St. Louis. Okay, do you have anything to do with people being moved out of St. Louis to places like Ferguson, Missouri? Creating that community out there, I guess he came from the Housing Authority, from the Housing Authority, or St. Louis, and we did that here with the complex out in Essex Village. He pushed people out of Richmond into Essex Village, and the one out in Hot Springs by the food line, and a third one out on New Bridge, and one out on Williamsburg, Parkers out on Bartown Road. And so they are fenced in, and they have strict regulations. And we got one worse than that. I'd like to need you to visit up on the hill above Martin Middle School above there, Fairfield Park. You think you were in a concentration camp, but you need to go up there with the towers that watch people and that sort of thing. But this is not an improvement that much so on life standpoint. For instance, you build these buildings now out of wood with firewalls.
Let me say this. It may not be an improvement on 1954.
No.
It may not. Well, it might not be an improvement on 1990. But this is 2016. So we're just going with what the residents have identified. Let me answer just a few of your questions. I'll answer the question about Ferguson, but let me answer the other, because I really think it's important for every voice to be heard, but for the voice to be contextualized. To go from 503 units to 602 units is not jamming people on top of each other. It is smarter use of space. And that's what we want you to be sure to go in there and look at. And if you've got ideas, Rob already told you, there's not a stone set in the ground yet. So let's make the changes while we're drawing it on paper. So that's really, really important. But I had to say to you, I get it. But there's no way that we can go forward recreating what we had back there. Somehow we gotta go forward recreating something new.
Would you give us an acreage, new asphalt over the lost green space? Okay, when y'all get that for us? Because right now, we're gonna lose Armstrong Playground. That's our only parking piece. We almost banned you going to show us parking. Okay? We go up there and look there, we're gonna get a piece of ride line set.
We need to be very, very careful to make certain that we've got the green space and the right usage for this community in 2016. With regard to Ferguson, it's a painful situation. You asked me if we were part of the moving folks out of the city and into Ferguson. Every single human being in the city of St. Louis who moved to the suburbs and left the poorest families in the city in housing that became decrepit and falling down is responsible for the families who moved to Ferguson looking for a better life, and then that collapsed. So am I responsible? Yes. And so is every other person in the city of St. Louis who did that. It is, unfortunately, I'm an urban developer, okay? And I'm an urban planner by training. And it is unfortunate that that's what we've done in city after city after city. But we're trying to get it right here, and your voice will help us do that. Yes, sir.
I'm a 40-year resident of your conservation area. I see a lot of my neighbors here, especially Reggie, I know him. My question is, I'm seeing your plan here. What we have a problem with, I'm also a property investor. What I don't see is the replacement of a school, of a high school. I don't see the plans for renovating this building. I don't see the plans for renovating Fairfield. What's the new Armstrong? It's falling apart. So where in this plan is all of that? Because people come to cities for schools.
Absolutely. We do have Richmond Public School as our school partner in this plan.
One of our supervisors from the elected school board is here.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, 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 wonderful.
Well, I can tell you that's a great question. And the reality of that question is it's bigger than this project. I mean, you guys been watching the news. The city as a whole, we just got to come together and come up with a better plan as far as the school replacement. But with this project, we are talking about the fact that what you just said, that you're going to do a new neighborhood like this, you've got to be paying attention to the schools. And so that's a part of the bigger question, is that, what are we going to do as a city to make sure that that is being looked at. And, as we continue to go through this process, and as the schools continue to go through the process, we need people like you to keep reminding us. We've done our facilities plan, we know what needs to be done, and now it's a matter of the money, getting the money to actually do it. And so it needs to remain a priority. We know we got a new mayor, a new city council, new school board coming. It needs to be top priority. One of the top priorities needs to be, how do we keep moving forward with school facilities? So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to hand the phone back to the city to talk a little bit about parks, but I just really want to put a little bit more meat on the bone of that last answer. We do have Richmond Public School as a partner. They will be able to have a small portion of the people funding, but it is for the stuff that you saw there around kids improving in schools and so forth and so on. And that is largely because this funding is coming from HUD. And HUD's primary focus is on housing, not on school buildings. So that really throws it back to our school board member who says that question has to be taken up in the larger context. And then I wanted to go to Doug to talk a bit more about the park.
And I'll make this point very quickly. All throughout this process, as we've tried to engage the community and find out what your priorities are, parks and recreation or recreational spaces for the family is one that kept coming back to us. So even when we had conversations about the development on the Armstrong site, what we heard from residents was, we love the development, but what's going to happen for the kids who currently use that playground? So when I look around the room, even tonight, we have a lot of individuals who lived in the neighborhood, but we have a lot of kids here as well. And so we're not just planning for this year and next year, we're thinking about the kids, we're thinking about future families that will be coming to the neighborhood. So one of the things that we talked about early on in the replacement was looking at our existing park system, looking at our existing playgrounds and thinking through how we could put aside funding, make it available so that we could enhance those play areas so that they would be available for the kids but also serve the entire family. The other thing that we thought about as a part of our planning process was also how we tie those together, how we make them accessible to the entire neighborhood, but also how we link them together so there's an actual network of parks that would be accessible to the entire neighborhood, because what we knew was there was no way to build one playground that would serve the entire neighborhood. And that's a void that we face even then. So to develop them, enhance them, and then also tie them together so we had a succinct network of parks that would serve the community was a priority. So we've set aside funding specifically for that purpose.
Okay, we've got about 9 more, thank you. We've got about 9 more minutes. Yes, ma'am, we'll go here, back here.
Yeah, I can speak up. So this is beautiful and it's really, really wonderful. I'm excited about this. But as someone who also has lived in the community for a while and live south of 9 Mile Road, I am constantly aware of the fact that the neighborhood is gentrifying, right? So more and more people are moving into the city, property values are going up, and there are already folks who consider Churchill as an alternative to the Van. And so a part of me is worried that if we put this brand new, amazing development with bike lanes and garden, you know, all of the things that people want, without thinking about who's owning it, how we're going to preserve affordability for these units in perpetuity, then we may end up attracting even more gentrification unintentionally. So I'd love to hear about what are the plans or like policies that will help make sure, you know, 3 to 5 years from now, after all of this is done, and if someone, you know, falls behind on their rent, that the incentive isn't to say, okay, you need to go, and now we can just make this a market rate unit.
That's not possible for the protected units, for the 503 units that are the replacement housing, of which, how many are going to be in the footprint? 239. So for certain, for the 503 units, the 239, 279, or whatever it is that are on site will be protected into perpetuity, literally forever, as public housing sites. And then another 125 on Armstrong, forever, as public housing sites. And the 129 that are off-site are forever revolving vouchers. So for the 503 units, that's part of the deal. But you ask a more difficult question, and that is, what about gentrification overall? All right? And we get this all the time when we are leapfrogging off of a public housing development as a way to rebuild a neighborhood. And it is a risk. Anybody who tells you it isn't is lying to you, and we don't lie to you. It is a risk, but we have to think about how to balance gentrification, all right? You have to protect affordability, but you do want other people who have resources and means to move in, because that is part of what keeps your community healthy. So that is why you see that a very important, one of the goals here is, can we go back to the people slide about governance? One of the goals here, I think it's the second slide. that one would have done too, but residents learn to lead and choose to lead to sustain their new community. That's work. I mean, people have to really put their voice in. How many new coffee shops do we want? People have to really put their voice in. How do we protect and make certain that we're protecting affordability? It is just a challenge of rebuilding a neighborhood. There's no way around it. Yes.
It ain't gonna be a big question.
You last one had 4 parts. We only giving you 2 parts.
I know. The question that I wanted to ask though, y'all are still calling it the Creighton Court? Is it gonna continue to be Creighton Court? Is it gonna be a new name, or is it gonna be the same street?
Let's ask them, what do you think we should?
What do you all want to?
I think you should rename it. I think we should have new names of the streets as well, because you're redoing the whole community, so why not change it? Let's change it so it can make a better community for all of us. Let the past be in the past and let the present become the present as our future.
I like that idea.
I think we should change it. So that's my act.
Now, newspapers do not write that TK said he was going to change the name. TK did not say he was going to change the name. This lady right here said she thinks she should change it.
All I said was I liked it. That's
Okay, my question again is back to the school thing. And I'm not trying to beat this dog down, but through your plan, I'm not seeing, are y'all going to be able to, because truthfully with the high school, they can't do what they did with MLK over at the new Armstrong building. It'd be practically impossible. They don't have the land to start building a building. So are y'all going to look at, and working with the school board, looking at a new area to put a high school in?
I'm sorry, I cannot answer. I cannot answer. We've not had that level of discussion.
Again, at this point, that is something else we need to look at. I want to say the way we looked at it in the facilities plan would be a renovation of that facility at some point. But we also know the challenge that needs to be brought into this for the school board is also with this new development, you know, demographics. Because one of the things that we're saying now is there's not enough kids for the present Armstrong. But with this new development, that changes, and I don't know how much that was inside of our previous facilities plan. But I hear you, and I can say this, even though I'm on my way out, I believe there needs to be a high school in the East End. No matter what happens, we got to find a way to keep a high school in the East End.
How we doing? This is the last 2. This lady and one more. I saw one more somewhere, because we're all going to thank.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. Can we go to him and you'll be able to close out questions? To wrap the evening.
I'm curious about a lot of things, but you mentioned that you have $6.5 million of commitments from government agencies to match the $4.5 million. You need $13.5 million, but you now have half of that. That means that city agencies are putting skin in the game. So I would like to know, with a 12% cut in the current budget and no new funding that I can see in the budget that will be passed for this year, you're saying that city agencies are pledging to devote limited resources to one small sector of the city, or are they saying that the East End City Hall that is now there counts as part of their stuff? Where is that money coming from? That answer.
Well, that can't answer for me. That's not what I said. So I have to first answer what I said. I said, let me tell you what I said. I said that we've got roughly half. I didn't say from where. You said from federal agencies, you said from state agencies and government. I did not say that.
Would you explain then where it's coming from?
What we've seen thus far has been commitments from an array of agencies.
Agencies means government. You're talking about
Well,
businesses.
no, what I'm talking about is Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCAs, an array of agencies. Some public, some not, that say we're gonna look forward and be willing to commit to this kind of support in Creighton. That's what I meant, and I really wanted to be clear about that because I know I didn't say government agencies because we don't have that.
That's fine.
That?
No, we're good. We're good. We're good.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay.
I can speak. You said.
No, you need a microphone closer.
Okay, you said that some people would get qualified for the vouchers or to be replaced somewhere else. But I still have not heard about 4 or 5 bedrooms because when I came to me last time, all I seen was 1 to 3 bedrooms. And from my own research of looking at other communities, most of them don't have 4 or 5 bedrooms, they have 3 and 2. So with the other 129 that's not eligible to stay on the site and where they will have to go, where would you place families like me with multiple kids?
Okay, so get the language right, and then Rob's gonna tell you about the numbers, okay? The 125 people, it is not that they are not eligible to go. Everybody who's in good standing on the day the application goes in and who remains in good standing is eligible to move to a house that fits their family, all right? So the 129 will simply be people who choose not to stay on the footprint. They will say, every time I try to say this, they make fun of me. They will say, I want to take my voucher to Henrico, okay? And that's where they will go. So it's not that they aren't qualified, it's that there are 125 who will have to make a choice. All right? Now, how about the bedrooms?
You're right, on the site, there are 46 now. 46 4-bedroom apartments on the site. We found in looking for projects that were building 4 bedrooms or had 4 bedrooms opportunities, there were four that we found. And you're right, people are not building them. That's a tough little jewel to find anywhere. So there will be 42 that are part of this, that would have to be replaced. So on Creighton, there'll be 42. You'll have 42 choices, but in Creighton. And right now, we have 4 choices identified outside of Creighton in these projects.
And it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, split up.
We have all those numbers. Yeah, we can give those to you.